Thanks. Hey everybody, welcome back to another Michael's paint night class. I'm so excited to have you all joined with me today to paint Orange Orchard. This is going to be a really fun summery painting, very simple, and just like our regular Monday night paint classes, we are going to do it in just about an hour. So I want to mention that Stephen White is going to be joining us to moderate the comment section. So if you have any questions throughout the live stream or comments, we'd love to hear all of your comments. Then make sure to list them in the chat down below, and Stephen can answer those questions himself or relay those questions and comments over to me. So let's go ahead and get started by going over the supply list just to make sure that everybody has all that they need to follow along with me tonight. So we are going to be using our promo FAI kit, which of course you can find on michaels.com. But the open stock colors that we're going to be focusing on tonight are True Blue, Cardinal Red, Daffodil Yellow, Wicker White, Baby Pink, Pure Orange, and Classic Green. Next, you're going to want to have a rectangle sized canvas. I think I called that a 9x12, but really any type of rectangle-ish canvas, an 8x10, really whatever you have on hand. This is going to be such a loose painting. It's kind of more of a pattern, really. So there's not going to be one main focus. So whatever size canvas that you want to paint on tonight, or any shape canvas, then please feel free to do that. And then, of course, we are using our Craftsmart variety brush set. So you just want a good selection of flat brushes to follow along with me tonight. And then I always have my palette paper, a water basin, paper towels, and of course my handy dandy blow dryer. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and move my painting down to the side of me so that you guys can all see the finished painting as we are all painting tonight.
And Emma, before we get started, could you show and just show on the camera and name the colors one more time? Just that it might be helpful.
Yeah, of course. So tonight we are using Baby Pink, and this is all FolkArt acrylic. We're using Baby Pink, Wicker White, Pure Orange, Classic Green, True Blue, Cardinal Red, and Daffodil Yellow.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do tonight is we are going to go ahead and apply some of our Baby Pink onto our palette paper. So I chose Baby Pink because I think that with the the oranges, the bright oranges on top, it really pops off of the canvas, but you can really use any type of background color you want. You could use a hot pink or a soft purple or a soft blue. Those would all be really pretty as well. So I'm going to take my 1-inch flat brush, and all we're going to do in the beginning here is base coat our canvas with this Baby Pink. And one great thing about FolkArt acrylic paints is that it just brushes on so nicely. And with just this one coat, you guys will be able to see how opaque it is. And I'm curious, you guys, I would love to know in the comment section what kind of subject matter that you guys might want to see in a future paint night. We are always so excited to hear what you guys want to paint, and it excites us to kind of step out of our box and to hear your suggestions and to come up with something.
Ooh, we've got 2 suggestions for butterflies.
Okay.
We've got someone says a cat.
Okay.
Any animals. We got a vote for nature and sunset. Cactus. That's a good one.
That is a good one. We had a lot of butterflies. Stay tuned to the Michael's community classroom page. You might be in luck.
We have, ooh, I like this suggestion, galaxy. I don't know if we've done one of those before.
Yeah. Okay, so while our baby pink is wet, I'm going to not even rinse my brush yet. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper towels and I'm going to offload as much of this paint off of my brush as I can. And the reason that I'm not rinsing my brush into my water basin there is because I still want my brush to be nice and dry for this next step. And if I had rinsed it with the water would stick to the bristles and get into our brush, and we don't want that. So I'm just offloading or removing as much paint as I can from my brush. Okay, so next what we're going to want to do is we are going to apply some Wicker White onto our palette. So go ahead and do that. Just a touch. Okay, so our baby pink is still a little bit wet on our canvas. Our brush is as offloaded as we could get it. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to just dip the tip of my brush into my Wicker White and kind of tap a little bit off. We don't want a whole glob of paint on our brush for this next step. Just, just about that much. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, in a kind of cross-hatching motion and an X motion, go make that motion all over our canvas, just like this. So I'm kind of coming down this way, so I'll go back that way. And if you start to see that your white is really kind of blending in with your baby pink, then just apply a little bit more of that white. And what we're doing here is we're just kind of creating some interest into the background of our painting. It looks a lot more exciting to look at a painting that has an interesting background as opposed to just a solid color. So that's all we're doing. And we talked about a little bit in the beginning, this painting would look so beautiful with any background color. So, the only thing that would change here is that you would change out the baby pink, but with any color, you could use white to make this kind of crosshatch pattern to add some interest into your background. So you can stop when you want, but I'm going to do a couple more strokes where I think there should be a little bit more white. And this part is really loose, you guys. Don't stress out about this. This part should be fun.
Emma, we have some really good suggestions here for what they would like to see in a future class. While you're doing that, I was going to read some off to you.
Yeah, please do.
Strawberry fields. I think that kind of goes in hand with what we're doing tonight.
Yeah.
I think a teddy bear would be cute. Somebody said teddy bear.
Love that.
I like this one. Creative drawings like a world made out of chocolate. Now, that would be fun.
That would be cool. Those are really great suggestions. You need to start writing those down, Stephen.
I'm on it.
Okay, so now that we've painted our background, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to blow dry my canvas so that we can lock this in place. So I'm going to go ahead and start blow drying. Okay, so now that our canvas is nice and dry, what we're going to do next is we are going to, I can see that, I'll hold it up.
Yeah, so you're not really going for any like particular shape here. It's more just like abstract textured background, right?
Absolutely, Stephen. That's exactly what we're looking for. Just a very loose texture for our background. Okay, so next what we're going to want to do is we are going to apply some of our pure orange onto our palette. Okay, so now I am going to take my 1/2 inch flat brush and I am going to dip it into my paint. So for this next step, I believe in you all and I truly think that you will all do this next step beautifully. I have confidence in all of you, but if you feel more comfortable, you can feel free to take a piece of chalk or a pencil. And what we're gonna do next is we're gonna paint our orange shape. So we're just gonna make big orange circles. So if you wanted to sketch that out beforehand, that way you can erase it if you're not pleased with what you made, then feel free to do that. But I have confidence in you all and I think that you can totally do it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna dip our brush into our pure orange. And I'll make sure that this is in frame so that you guys can see where I made my oranges. But, you know, somewhere in the middle, we're going to start and we're going to touch down holding our brush perpendicular to our canvas. And I'm going to make a sweeping motion that way, applying more paint to my brush as it runs out and then kind of sweeping back up. And then we are going to close off that circle and we're just making kind of C strokes, you guys, but we're making it in the shape of a circle. Just like that. Okay, so once you get to this point, we're just going to go ahead and fill in our circle. And of course, too, I put my oranges in this position, but you can put your oranges wherever you want them to live on your painting. So we're going to keep doing that, making those C strokes to create a little circle. And it's always, you know, it's not a bad idea whenever you're painting to have a reference photo of some sort, just so you can really, if you kind of have a brain block or whatever, then that way you can see how whatever you're trying to paint looks in nature, or if you have a painting that inspires you, you can reference that painting that you saw. And the reason I say that is because we're trying to get these oranges to be a similar size. So, you know, typically in an orange orchard, oranges on a tree would be a similar size, right? We don't want to have different sizes of oranges because we want to have a beautiful orchard of totally ripe oranges ready for picking. So we want our oranges to be a similar size. And of course, we can never get it perfect because painting can never be perfect. And oranges aren't perfect in nature anyway, so we wouldn't want it to be perfect, but we're trying to get a similar size to all of our oranges tonight. Okay, let's make another full orange up here. Beautiful. So just to create a little bit more interest into our painting, now we're going to paint some oranges coming off of our canvas. And that really makes our painting look more of like a pattern, that we have some oranges that are kind of coming off the page. So similar thing, we're just going to, there's really a couple different ways that you can do it. Sometimes I like to hold my brush perpendicular and use the tip of my brush kind of like a writing utensil and curving like that. If you don't want to hold your brush like this, I encourage you guys to test it a little bit on your palette paper and see which one feels most comfortable to you. So the way I just did this one is I held my brush perpendicular and we get that kind of stroke. or you can continue with the way that we have been doing and holding your brush parallel like that and making that kind of stroke. Whatever you feel most comfortable with, I encourage you to do that. But sometimes I find that I personally have a little bit more precision when I hold my brush perpendicularly like that. Okay, so just continuing, we are going to keep making those oranges that come off of our canvas. Okay, and let's do one last one coming off the side there. Beautiful. All right, so we're not even going to rinse our brush quite yet. I'm going to set it there. So now comes the fun part. Now we're going to do some mixing. So we have some pure orange already on our palette. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to introduce some daffodil yellow right next to our orange there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take about a ratio of 1:1 of our daffodil yellow and our pure orange and mix that together so that we get a really beautiful light creamy orange color. Okay, so if you got a lot of paint on your brush from mixing these two colors together, then feel free to offload some of that. And now we're going to go ahead and create some highlights on the left, or I'm sorry, the right side of our orange. So to do that, we are going to start at the top center of our orange, and we're going to make a C stroke, holding our brush perpendicular and swooping down like that. Okay, and just kind of filling in until you have that beautiful soft highlight on the right side of your oranges. So holding my brush perpendicular at the top center, coming around just like that. And then we can repeat that again if you want your highlight to be a little bit thicker. Starting at the top, coming down. Starting at the top, making that little C stroke. And because our pure orange is still kind of wet on our canvas, you'll be able to see that these two colors kind of blend together really beautifully. Just filling that in.
So Emma, we have a question here. Is the highlight on the outside or the inside of the orange?
That's a good question. So the highlight is living on the outside. So it's going to be on the outer right side of our oranges. So you guys, when we come to these trickier ones that are kind of going off the page, so, you know, we're starting at the top center. So for this guy in particular, let's start at the bottom center. And then we're going to make our C stroke and coming up. So still holding it perpendicular and coming up like that. Okay, and so for this one that's going off the page here, we still want to have some of that, or most of our orange, that rich, pure orange color. So being mindful of that, I might put less of a shadow on this one, just so it's not so much of that creamy orange color, and that pure orange is still the main orange color that we see.
And Emma, we have another good question here. Can I use oil pastel crayons?
That is a great question. You absolutely could, really any of these paint nights you can do with any type of medium that you want. We encourage you guys to just be creative, to relax, to have fun. So we always encourage you guys to use whatever form of art media that you have in your own home. Of course, FolkArt acrylic paints are our favorites. We just love the way that they paint. They paint so beautifully. It's so rich and creamy and easy to blend. So we love using FolkArt paints, but of course you can use whatever you have at home. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to add some of our Cardinal Red onto our palette. You might be ahead of me. We're going to do the same thing or very similar to what we just did. I'm going to take 1 part pure orange and maybe a little less than 1 part of our Cardinal Red. Okay, doing the same thing. We're going to offload quite a bit. And now we're going to do the same exact technique that we did on the right side of our oranges, except now we're going to do it on the left side. So again, starting at the top and then making that swooping motion coming down till we reach the bottom. Then do it again and kind of make those brush strokes a little bit closer to the center if you want it to be a little bit thicker. Last one, starting at the bottom, brushing up to the top. Okay, so now we have these beautiful dimensional oranges. And the reason that they're dimensional is just from 2 comma strokes that you guys all did tonight. We just did a highlight and a shadow. Beautiful. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse my brush. And next, we are going to add some classic green onto our palette. Okay, so now for this next step, you can use a round brush or a liner brush, or I typically like to use a flat brush because we are going to be making some thin lines. So whatever brush you feel comfortable making thin lines with, then grab that brush. I'm going to use my keep on going with my 1/2 inch flat. Okay, so dipping my flat brush into my classic green. In order to make my my straight lines, I like to hold my brush perpendicular so that just the tip is touching onto my canvas. And that way we're going to get some really crisp, clean lines. So now we are going to paint some of these vines, or I guess really stems, in our orange tree. So, again, your vines or stems do not have to look exactly like mine. You can just paint your stems wherever you want them to live onto your painting. Of course, we want to have some, intersecting into the oranges so that it looks like it's actually growing from the vines, but feel free to paint these wherever your heart desires.
Hey, Emma, just before we jump into the vines, there's one more question about the shading.
Okay.
Quote, we are not blending the highlights and the shadows with the body of the oranges, right?
Right. You totally could if you wanted to, but I chose not to. I kind of like that it looks a little bit more graphic looking, and it's not super blendy. I'll bring that up so you guys can see a little bit more. You kind of get that modern graphic look. but it's up to you. We did not blend, but if you wanted to, you absolutely could. It's a good question. Okay, holding my brush perpendicular and just painting on some of those stems. I have one going here. And I think, you know, the painting looks more interesting personally if your stems are kind of curving. So as you can see, none of my stems are a straight line. They're all curving and they're all flowing. It makes your painting look very fluid. And of course, just apply some more of that classic green onto your brush when you need to. Where else? Where else? So really, when you get to this point where you're not totally sure where you want the next vines to live, I kind of like to just kind of sit back and see some of this negative space. And I want to make just a mindful decision of if I want to leave that space as a negative space or if I want to fill it. You know, sometimes less is more. So you can get crazy and really paint a ton of vines, but don't forget that we're going to be adding some leaves later. So really, it's up to you. I think I'm going to paint just about one more vine. Just like that. Okay, so again, without rinsing our brush, we are going to go ahead and introduce some, you know what, we already have it. So we're going to take some of our Daffodil Yellow and we are going to mix a 1-to-1 ratio of our classic green and our Daffodil Yellow so that we get a really pretty kind of lime green color. Just like that. And I didn't even realize until tonight, but this really is a class on highlights and shadows, huh? Okay, so following those same lines that we just painted, we're going to create a highlight on some of those stems. So to the left of our stem, we're going to butt up right against it with our lime green color, and we are going to paint a little bit to the left, thickening our stem and adding that highlight. Okay, like that. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush. And next, we're going to go ahead and paint some leaves coming off of our stems.
So we had a couple questions. What did
Okay.
we mix with the green? And that was our Daffodil Yellow.
Correct.
And the other question is why highlight to the left since the light source is on the right?
That's a great question. I'll show that up close really quick. So I'm glad you asked that. Our light source is coming from the right for our oranges, but I just wanted this to have more of a kind of graphic feel. Honestly, it was just an artistic choice, which I encourage you guys to always do whenever you're painting. I think it makes it look a little bit more whimsical, a little bit more graphic, that though, you know, the source of light for the oranges is coming at this way, but the vines are coming this way. So technically, if you were, you know, painting a very technical painting, your light source would all be coming from one way. But in tonight's painting, it just makes it look a little bit more whimsical when you have two different light sources.
Okay. And can you show it up close one more time?
Yeah.
And then another question, do you have to make the highlight all the way through?
No, absolutely not. That's a great question. You know, again, you guys can paint this painting however you want to paint it. I totally encourage you to do that. If you just wanted to add, you know, a little bit of highlight into some areas of your vine, then totally feel free to do that. Okay, so let's paint some leaves, you guys. So we're going to pick up some of our classic green. And again, I love to hold my brush perpendicular, you guys. We are going to make a swooping motion on one side. I'm showing you guys on my palette paper, and then mirror that on the other side with another swooping motion, just like that. So we're going to do that on our canvas, and we are going to fill in some of these leaves. Switch out my brush really quick, actually, for my number 10 flat. So right now I am focusing on leaves that don't intersect with my oranges. So I'm really trying to fill some of these more negative spaces on my canvas. And then I am going to focus on painting some of these leaves that look like they're kind of coming behind or coming in front of our oranges. Okay, you guys, so I am pleased with how all of our leaves look. So without rinsing my brush, I am going to introduce some True Blue onto our palette. Okay, so again, we are going to take a 1-to-1 ratio of our classic green and our True Blue. And this is going to make a really, really beautiful teal color. I'm a sucker for these really gem-like jewel tony colors, and this is probably going to be my favorite color that we mix this whole paint throughout this whole painting tonight. Okay, so just like normal, we have quite a bit of paint on our brush from mixing, so go ahead and offload that. So now what we're going to do is if you'll notice on the finished painting, we have a lot of leaves that are kind of right at the top of our orange, ready to be picked off the tree. So we are going to, continuing with how we painted our leaves coming off of our vines, we're going to follow the shape that we made with our orange. So tracing along the top here, going to make a line there for now and a line there for now.
And Emma, that's just a mix of True Blue and Classic Green.
Correct.
Got you.
Okay, so, and then we're going to just kind of close off that leaf shape just like that, and then do that again on the other side. So it's that same technique, that same motion, how we painted the leaves on our vines. We're going to do that now again, kind of following that shape of the orange. Okay, just like that. So now what we're going to do is we are going to continue doing that same thing that we just did with our first orange, and we're going to continue doing that with the rest of our oranges. But for these ones that are going to be on the rest of our oranges, I kind of encourage you guys to make a little bit of a looser shape. So as you guys can see, we've been doing this very perfect looking leaf shape like that, but you guys can see in the finished painting that the leaves that are kind of coming off of the orange, they're a little bit more irregular. And all we're going to do to achieve that is we're going to, start up here with that comma stroke that we always do. But then we're going to kind of add a little bit of squiggle to the bottom line. So it's kind of like that to the bottom. That's going to connect to our more arch-like top. Does that make sense? And we can have, some of our leaves starting off of our orange like that. See how this one kind of starts off? And let's do that squiggle. Just like that. Coming off our orange, squiggle, squiggle. Okay, and we're going to continue doing that. You can even add more than just 2 leaves if you want to. Maybe we'll add another leaf here. Like that. Okay, continuing to do that on all of our oranges. Make sure to give this guy on the side some love.
So Emma, this is an interesting question. Does holding your painting arm with your opposite arm give you more control?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it totally does. I kind of use it as like an anchor sometimes. So if you're feeling like your painting arm is getting a little fidgety or a little weak, then you can totally hold it with your other arm as a little anchor for some more stability.
That's a good observation.
Yeah, that was a good observation. Okay, so continuing with the same color that we just mixed that we've been painting these leaves with, this classic green and true blue, we're going to pick some more up of that. And now what we're going to do is we are going to create some shadows on the right side of our vines. So go ahead and do that real quick. And you guys can make the choice if you want to not have the shadow where your vine touches your leaf, or you can just come right through and kind of intersect that leaf. I am avoiding my leaves just so I have that cohesive, structure of the vine coming down and our leaf really looks like it's attached to it, but it's totally a choice that's up to you. Okay, so since we still have this color on our brush, let's go ahead and paint the shadows on our leaves. So continuing again with this classic green and true blue 50-50 mix, we are going to make those same swooping motions that we kind of do to start our leaf. And we are going to make that swooping motion with that color on the bottoms of our leaves. Just like so. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to rinse my brush. And we're going to do the same kind of deal that we just did with the bottoms of our leaves. We're going to touch back into that classic green and daffodil yellow mixture that we mixed up earlier, 50-50 ratio. And we are going to make some highlights on the top of our leaves now. And if you feel like you need to add a little bit more yellow to this mixture, I'm kind of feeling like I might need to, just so that we have a lot of good contrast in those two colors, then you can totally do that. Gonna offload and then make those highlights.
And Emma, the colors you have mixed are,
Classic green and daffodil yellow.
thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and rinse my brush. And now I'm actually gonna go ahead and blow dry my painting and lock this in place. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to add just a little bit more of our wicker white to our palette. And really quick, I'm going to teach you guys a little lesson in painting petals. Okay, so I have a number 2 flat. I'm going to take, you know what, I'll show you with this. I'm going to take my red just so you guys can see this actually on my palette paper, because if I do it in white, you won't be able to see it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to touch down onto our canvas. And I'll show you guys something. The more pressure that I put on my brush, I get a thicker line. So that's, I'm putting a lot of pressure on that. Okay, I'll show you guys that again. So a lot of pressure, you get that pretty thick line. So continue with the same exact brush. I'm not going to put as much pressure on it. I'm just going to go down with very little pressure. You get a very thin line. So you can kind of play with that in just one brush stroke. And that's how we're going to paint our flowers today. So we're going to touch down kind of softly and then get a little bit harder in the middle and then kind of come back up softly. Okay. So you can practice that if you need to. You know, don't forget that if we're going a little bit too fast for you tonight, then this class is being recorded and it's going to be available on Michael's YouTube page in about 24 to 48 hours. Okay, so I'm going to go for my wicker white. And I'm going to first make a little dot in the center of where I want my flower to be. Just so that way I kind of have a marker of where I'm painting towards. So starting, let's say about a little bit more than a ½ inch away from that dot, I'm going to touch down very gently and then apply a little bit more pressure and then come back up. So I said my 2-inch flat, but I think I might actually switch that back out for my 6 flat. Okay, so just continuing with that petal, those petals, we're going to touch down very gently and then more pressure in the middle and then come back up softly. Soft, harder, soft. And we're just going to do that same motion all the way around to our petals make a full flower. And for these beautiful orange blossoms, don't be afraid to have them, you know, come appear like they're coming above your orange. It's okay if they block them a little bit. So continuing with the same technique, we're going to keep doing that wherever you want flowers to live on your painting. And you know, earlier we talked about wanting our oranges to be the same size, but for these flowers, it's totally, you know, natural for all of these different blooms to be different sizes. So if you want one to be smaller or bigger than the other, then you can totally feel free to do that. And as you guys probably will notice, between every petal, I am applying a little bit more of that wicker white to my brush, just so I have a good amount of paint on my brush so that the paint just glides really, really smoothly and it doesn't drag or run out of paint in the middle of my petal, which we do not want. Let's do one more. Okay, you guys, so we are in the final stages of our painting tonight. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pick up just a touch. I'm just really dipping the tip of my brush into that daffodil yellow. We don't want a whole lot, and we're gonna incorporate that into our wicker white so that we get a really, really soft, almost off-white, but very, very soft yellow color. And what we're gonna do is just holding our brush perpendicular in the center, we're gonna follow the marks that we made of those petals and just making little centers in the middle. We're going about, halfway down our petals. That's how long I want these centers to be. Just like that. Okay, one more thing, you guys. I'm gonna take my 10 flat, make sure it's nice and dry for this next step. I'm gonna dip the tip of my brush into my true blue and classic green mixture, that pretty teal that we painted some of our leaves and our leaf shadows with. I'm gonna apply some of that to the tip of my brush, and holding my brush perpendicular to my canvas, I'm going to tap it in the center perpendicularly, tap, tap, tap. And as I'm tapping, I am twisting my brush. So I will show you kind of what that's gonna look like on my canvas. So we get that little, and we don't want a whole lot of paint on our brush because we really want to have that fine detail. So you guys can see that's what it's going to look like. So go ahead and do that at the center of your flowers. Spinning as you tap. Okay, you guys, if you've been here before, then you know the next step. If you are brand new, welcome. We love having you. We do a paint night every single Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time here with Michaels in the Plaid Craft Studio, and it's always so much fun. And you always learn some really great painting techniques. We have so many great artists at Plaid that teach you some really useful stuff. And then you walk away with a beautiful painting in just about an hour. So grab a tiny little brush. I'm using my 6 flat. Take your favorite color that you mixed tonight. I'm using this teal color. And don't forget to sign your painting. Okay, you guys, and we are done. So thank you guys so much for tuning in with me tonight. It was such a pleasure painting along with you. I always have so much fun. If you are new, then you should know that we have a really great Facebook group called Let's Paint with Plaid. And a lot of times after this class, people like to post their paintings that they painted tonight. And I'm always looking under that Facebook page, and I love seeing all of you guys painting along with me, and it really just makes my day. So if you want to become part of a wonderful community with tons of fellow artists at skill levels of all different types, it's called Let's Paint with Plaid. It's a really great Facebook page, so check that out. And if you decide to post your finished painting on social media, make sure to hashtag Make It With Michaels and Plaid Crafts so that we can see all of your beautiful paintings. Thank you guys again so much. It was so much fun. That's Let's Paint with Plaid. You want to type that in the chat real quick, Stephen, on Facebook? Okay, so Let's Paint with Plaid. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.